How is everybody doing? Welcome to Husbands Boot Camp, Day 6. So now let's review where we are until now. Day 1, Day 2, Day 3, and Day 4 were all kind of under the same heading, I'm married for Olam Haba. That was Day 1's idea, but really the theme of Day 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that takes us to Day 2, which was no blaming, Day 3, which was show respect, Day 4, which was this is work. All those go under the same heading of a married for Olam Haba. No matter what happens, I have to be the best that I can be, regardless. Then day 5 was a day where we spoke about yesterday about a good offense is the best defense. Basically, always show affection, always be positive, always show compliments, and in this way you'll circumvent so many issues in one's marriage. But now we turn the page and we totally go in a, it was a totally in a different direction, but we go in a different direction now. Out of all the modes of therapy that I have studied, and I've probably studied everyone that's out there. In fact, I've studied this subject for 3.5 years of my life very rigorously, this study of Shalom Bayit and marriage therapy. Rabbi Victor Miller, passed away in the year 2000. Everybody knows his tapes, everybody have heard him, has one of the greatest pieces of advice on marriage. He calls them his 10 commandments of marriage. Anybody could probably get it and download it off the internet. I even heard it a few months ago. Every few months I kind of, listen to it again just to get it back into my mind, back into my soul. His advice is so on point, as he knew the human condition better than any therapist that's out there for sure. It's so informative, and yet it's so real. His ideas in the 10 commandments of marriage. And for the next 10 days, we're going to be working on Rabbi Miller's 10 commandments of marriage, and these are going to be 10 of the 28 steps in our boot camp to take our Shalom Bayit to the next level. So let us go with number 1 commandment of Rabbi Victor Miller in marriage, and that is be realistic. Be realistic. How smart is that? How on point is that? All of us, when we get married, we have a certain vision of what we expect from our wives. Maybe it's based on our mother. A lot of times it's probably based on Disney. You watch, a Disney movie and you see, Cinderella and, they put the slipper on her and everybody lives happily ever after. And then curtains close and everybody's great. Everybody's good to go. But anybody that knows real life knows what happens next. They have a nice honeymoon for a few days and then all of a sudden she wakes up with no makeup. She's not in a good mood. He's not in a good mood. A fight ensues. She gets pregnant. They have children. They're stressed. He can't make a dime, even though he's prince. And they fight. And who knows what happens after that? That's real life. Happily ever after doesn't really exist. But yet we get this model in our head of what we think a romantic, engaging, affectionate marriage should be, relationship should be, and that's our example. And our example comes from Hollywood. And nothing in Hollywood is real. Go look at how they get the picture on the cornflakes box. Just go look at that. Go research how they get the picture on the cornflakes box. They go through dozens, hundreds of cornflakes to get the right flake. They get the right bowl. They get the right lighting. You know that the picture that's on the cornflakes box is not even milk. It's actually Elmer's glue because milk is too watery in pictures. So the greatest picture of the bowl of cornflakes is not even a bowl of cornflakes. It doesn't exist. Nothing looks that good. And go look at McDonald's hamburger. I don't suggest you buy one, but go buy a McDonald's hamburger and look at the McDonald's hamburger commercial. The McDonald's hamburger commercial looks unbelievable, but the burger you get is not the same in the picture because they are selling something. They're fakers. They're liars. That's what they do for a living. So we're going to get a vision of what a lady should be, a vision of what affection and what a relationship should be from sitcoms, from Hollywood, from fairy tales, from Disney. It's wrong. And then we have a certain unrealistic view of what our wife should be. How about people when they're married already compare their wives to other people, not verbally, but in their minds. I know Rabbi Diamond, may he live and be well, says the same, he says the story over and over again. He says, there's a guy, he comes home to his house, and his house is flying. His kids are not ready. Food's not ready. And then one day he has to go pick up something from his friend's house. And he walks into his friend's house. His wife answers the door, and his wife is full face of makeup, hair done, with a dress. There's a steak on the barbecue, salad on the table. Kids are sleeping. The house is immaculate. And then I says, "Wow, why can't I have this?" Had he never walked into the neighbor's house, he would have been okay with his life. But he walks into the neighbor's house and he gets a different view of things, and he kind of feels like, why isn't my wife like that? There's a great line that says, "Comparison is the thief of joy." Comparison is the thief of joy. When we have an unrealistic expectation of our spouse or of our mate or of what a relationship should be, because we compare it to something that doesn't even exist or something we once saw, that's robbing us of joy we could have. Our rabbis tell us when we say the berachot for the Sheva berachot, when a husband and wife get married, we say that they should be as happy as like Hashem made happy Adam and Chava in Gan Eden that first time. This couple should be as happy as them. Now, why should we compare them to the first couple ever? Why is that the paradigm of what a happy couple should be? And the answer is very simple. My Rosh Yeshiva used to always tell us this. He says, because Adam knew she was the only girl out there, and this was the girl for him. And Chava knew this is the only man out there. This is the man for me. Because they knew that there was nobody else to compare each other to, and they knew that this is the one for me, everything was perfect after that. So oftentimes, we compare our spouse and we get an unrealistic view. Dr. John Gutman, we quoted him before. We are going to quote him many times through these 28 days in the coming days. But he says something unbelievable. He says, when you get married, you marry a lady or you marry a husband, you take on a whole new set of problems. Every person's got baggage. And you think that if you would marry somebody else, you wouldn't get baggage? He says he once had a couple come to them, and the husband told him privately, he said, "I want to get divorced." And he's like, "Why do you want to get divorced?" He said, "My wife has too many issues." He says, "I want to ask you a real question, really seriously. I don't know if you should get divorced. That's not my problem. But I want to ask you a question. You think you're going to marry somebody else with no issues?" And the guy looked at him, and the guy said, "Well, he said, "You don't have an answer. The bottom line is everybody's got issues. So your wife has issues. You have issues. She inherited a bunch of problems when she married you. You inherited a bunch of problems when you married her. That's life. And now go make it work. Stop comparing and stop setting an unrealistic view of what things should be. Life is difficult. Your wife is not always going to be perfect. And that's awesome. On a deeper level and a much deeper level. Somebody in Rabbi Miller's class once asked him, and they said, "Rabbi, how do you know that your wife is the right one?" And he said something so brilliant, and it was so quick and so spot on. He said, "Young man, when you're under the chuppah and you say, Hareat mikudeshet li, she's the right one," meaning he said, "Young man, when you put the ring on her finger and you say, you're my betrothed, we're getting married, she's the right one." Meaning, there's no question that no match is ever perfect. The people who are happily married make it work, and the people who are not don't. The bottom line is, this is the perfect wife for you. Her deficiencies, your deficiencies fit perfect together. A wife that would have been maybe easier going, maybe what you think would be the perfect wife for you, would have never been perfect for you in the next world. This is the perfect wife for you. And let us stop setting unrealistic expectations, and let us not have comparison destroy our joy. Let us enjoy the wife that we have, because that's real. Everybody's got problems. Everybody's got issues. That is day one's lesson of Rabbi Miller, such a brilliant thing, and that is be realistic. Lower your expectations. How's everybody doing? So the task of the day is going to be a little bit different than we normally would. Usually a task is a mission to do something to your wife. This is between you personally. And we said that our lesson today is to be realistic. Therefore, our task is to think of one deficiency your wife has that gets you nervous. that we assume is never going to change. And you're going to tell yourself in your head, this is my wife's deficiency. I can live with it, and this is how I'm going to live with it. Strategize on how you're going to deal with it in a nice, kind manner that keeps your midot the way they should be. So the task of the day is think of one deficiency, the biggest, that your wife has, and tell yourself, I can deal with it, and this is how I'm going to deal with it. Because every single person in the world has a big deficiency.